So it is 12 o'clock. Let's get this started. Hey, everyone. I'm Dan Bassett. I'm the Education Director for the Bicycle Coalition of Maine. You all met Eric. He is my lovely counterpart and colleague up in Orono, master of all things bicycle. Right?
Yeah. And Def Leppard.
And Def Leppard. We were just talking about this before. Eric has interesting music taste. Well, welcome everyone to the to another Wednesday webinar. I believe this is our last one we have scheduled so far this year. But we want to use this opportunity to talk about our new instructor program, where we have built a new opportunity for people to get involved with the program, with our education program. So I guess I'm going to just I'm going to do an overview of the BCM's education program as a whole, what we do, what we've done. And then we're going to kind of dive into the instructor program and how that fits in, and then have plenty of time to for everyone to ask as many questions as possible. Make sure everyone feels like they are informed on what this is all about. Sound cool? Great. I'm going to share my screen here. So the BCM Bicycle Coalition of Maine Instructor Program. So let's first talk about our education program. So BCM, so the Bicycle Coalition of Maine has a fairly robust education program, and we cover our safety presentations, our bicycle rodeos. Let's go back up. Our safety presentations. These are presentations where we go to schools or organizations and talk about the basics really of bicycle safety, pedestrian safety. We can break it down to about 4 points. These are our most common like programming we deliver across the state. Secondly, we have rodeos. And our rodeos are essentially mock traffic systems that we create as a community event in an open space for people to really kind of practice riding a bike in a traffic scenario. The beauty thing about it is that it is a closed system. And it's really just bikes on course, no human power transportation through the whole thing. So it allows people to like have the experience of being in traffic in a fairly safe environment. Secondly, we do instructional rides. And these come in a bunch of different forms. One of the big ones is our urban riding, we call it, which is more like a traffic skills class where we will take people onto the road. We'll first talk about the basics of riding in traffic and the safety around it. Then we'll introduce the skills, and then we'll take you on the road and do that. And another one we do, my personal favorite, are fix-it bikes. These are our mechanic classes. Eric and I both have mechanic suites that we bring around state. We'll host a 2-hour class where we talk about the basics of bicycle maintenance. Everything from how to fix a flat to tune up your bike, and dive into things that some of these people want to talk about. I have taught many people how to true a wheel over the last year, so it's been great. We do have some other programming as well. A new one that's just kind of started last year was our Bangor Earn a Bike program, which Eric runs. Really great opportunity for people who don't have access to a bicycle to learn how to fix a bike and then get a bike in the end. We do a lot of safe routes to school, technical assistance. Schools that want to develop, a more active transportation culture in the school, or how to get people to school on feet or on bike in a much more safe manner. We'll give them assistance in that. That's part of a much larger federal program across the country. We've done some online learning modules, which we'll talk about a little bit later as we go into our training part of it. We also did a lot of unique programming per request. Sometimes people say like, hey, I want to do this thing on bikes. I don't know how to really do it, or don't have anyone who knows to teach it. We will go and help them build that out. We've done some interesting things. There is possibly we might be working with some schools to make an entire bicycle education program that involves math, science, everything. So a lot of cool stuff like that. Eric, am I missing anything in there? Anything you want to add?
No, I mean, I think the last point there is really important. And I would say that a lot of times what we would do is try to meet the host with whatever they can bring. So for example, the mechanics class, if we have a group of people that want to learn about fixing their bike and the instructor doesn't have a full suite of tools like a mini bike shop, it's really just it can be just as handy and engaging for that class to bring their own roadside assistance tools, like their mini tool, a little mini pump, whatever they have, and just review like, how do you save yourself when you get a flat tire? So there's a lot of breadth to this. There's a lot of personal taste that each of us can put into it. And we can really make everything fun, and you can work within your own passion. You don't have to do all of these things on the page. You might only do rodeos, and you might excel at doing rodeos with school age kids. And that might be your specialty, or you might do a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I'll say on that, we know we do all this programming. We've done it from like multiple age groups, and I've done safety presentations at Rotary clubs, and I've done them to first grade classes. I've hosted fixed bike classes at middle schools and at breweries. So, the nice thing about our programming is that it's adaptable to a lot of different scenarios, and there's a wide range of people that would love to participate in it. So, cool. All right. So next, let's talk about what we did last year. So this is between me, Eric, a few other instructors that have been with us for a while, and a couple of staff members. We hosted 338 events, and we served over 6,000 people across the state, which is, and not to pat ourselves on the back, but we were pretty pumped about that. So we have our presentations, our web-based stuff, just like some webinars we would do, or some trainings. Imagine People Here, that is our advocacy program. And that is much more focused on, doing demonstration infrastructure projects across the state, training. And the other, I think the other also involved like some radio talks and stuff like that. So, we were busy last year. It was great. But one thing we will say is that why we're creating the instructor program is that this is only really a portion of who we really could reach if we had more people involved. So.
And before the pandemic, we were reaching a number closer to 20,000 across the state. And since 2019, a lot has changed. We lost many of our instructors through retirement, or they've moved on to something else. And we obviously just lost some momentum. So we're trying to get back up to a number where we can reach more people across the state, which is where hopefully all of you come in.
Cool. All right, next. So the BCM Instructor Program, here's what we have created. So this will kind of stem from a conversation we had last summer, the education team, about how can we reach more people? What are our big bottlenecks, holdups? And what we really decided was that, one of the big things that we just don't have enough people to really be able to teach our programming and deliver it across the state. Really, it's just Eric and I were doing it for the most part, and we can only be in so many places at once. Sadly, we can't clone each other yet. We're working on that. That was a serious thought. So the BCM Instructor Program is a certification program for those who want to teach bike skills and bike safety and pedestrian safety in the state of Maine with the Bicycle Coalition of Maine. So as a BCM instructor, you'd be working under our umbrella as part of the organization. It is open to anyone who is willing and able to participate. We have designed this training and the certification process for people who come with little to no teaching experience. We want you to be able to, share your passion, and give you the skills to do that as well. I'm much more. When I think about people who I would love to be in this, I would love to get passionate cyclists in here. I love to get people who can rip on a mountain bike or are fast on a road bike, or who just want to go somewhere on their bike and have fun, lay back. But my big thing is I want people who want to be there and want to teach, even if they don't know how to. That to me is really important. The process is we're going to apply to the program. We have an application. Eric will drop the link in the chat box, but it's also going to be easily found on our website. It's a quick application. You're going to then have a phone call with me. We'll talk one-on-one a little bit, just kind of getting to know each other. No real hard questions, don't worry. Then we have an online training module that we created. That's one of the key parts of the certification. We have online videos, a manual to go through, and an exam. Okay, it'll be an online exam over Google Form. And then we will have an in-person certification. Right now we have one we have one date for the certification planner now, and that's April 15th. And we're going to do one in Portland and one in Bangor on that day. If you are unable to attend April 15th, if you still want to do this, but you're unable to attend on the 15th, we will find a time to do it with you. We'll make something work for you. We don't want to turn away people from this program because of small things like that. So we have built also an instructor portal to go with that as well, which I'll share with you in just a second, to show you what this looks like. And lastly, this is a stipended volunteer role. What that means is that you're a volunteer, but we will pay for your time and your mileage, up to $600 a year. After that, it gets a little complicated. Involves more part-time employees, but we also want to make sure we value your time. And that is essentially be $600 a year. We'll pay $30 an hour for people who are leading this programming. So most events are about 2 to 3 hours long. So, it's might take you a while to ever get to that point, but we want to make sure show you that we value your time. So, all right. So our instructor portal, I'll just open this up for fun, see if it'll work. All right. Can everyone see that new web page?
Good. Yep.
So we create an online portal for people to kind of access everything. So this is where our training modules live, our certification, which is our reference manual, our test, and our class resources, which is still being worked on a little bit, but that's where we keep our lesson plans, our curriculums, our handouts. So we're trying to create a one-stop shop for everyone who's in the program. So you don't need to come hunt down certain things, or they'll be just stored in one spot for you. You just got to log in, and there it is. We have our calendar here, which will be showing our events. We have nothing for this month, but you can see it starts to pick up. And this May one looks small right now. Give it a couple weeks, and that thing will be pretty much full every day. So, yeah. And then some news from here. So.
I would say that calendar probably is full, Dan. I just haven't shared all of my events with the SRTS calendar.
I probably haven't either yet, so we should probably update that.
Yes.
It might get even more full. We get people on board. And then lastly, we were talking about other educational resources. So we'll talk I'll get to that in just a second here, actually. But yeah, that is the instructor portal. All right, let's go back to where we were before. What am I doing? What's going on here? Okay. So what you'll do as an instructor. So as an instructor, you will deliver our BCM safety presentations to schools and organizations. You'll manage and lead rodeos. You'll lead instructional rides and classes. And you'll host mechanic classes as well, and lead mechanic classes. To say you won't have to do all of these. You're not saying you have to do this. We want you to teach things that you want to teach and you're excited about. If you are really passionate about mountain biking, we will find ways to have you teach mountain bike classes. We might ask you to teach, traffic riding classes sometime. You might ask if you can do a safety presentation. But we also want to make sure people are passionate about what they're teaching about as well. So way a lot of this works, the vast majority of our programming that we deliver is actually requested. We have a request form that schools, organizations, people fill out, and then we coordinate a time to deliver this. But we also want this program to create local champions. That's a big part of it. So, if you are in, say you live, you live in Skowhegan, and it's just an example, and you really want to teach a urban riding class here because you see a lot of people riding their bikes around town in a really unsafe manner, but you think, oh, I can host a class and help that out a little bit. We want to support you and do that. We want you to go deliver that. So what we'll do is we will create that support network behind you to make it happen. We can give you the curriculum. We will coordinate any kind of permitting we need to figure out. We will set up the registration. We will make sure you get materials that you need for this up to you. And all we ask for you is just to be there, deliver the programming, act in a safe manner, just as you would as any other class, and you know, just be our point person in that community. The thing is, we are a statewide organization. We do have a lot of people involved in our programming, from our community spokes, people just aware of us, but we can't see everything. And one thing we want to do is have more instructors see the needs across the state and then act upon it. Really have like a grassroots kind of feel to this. So yeah. Say that we're a unique programming. We're a unique organization. Our programming is really unique in a lot of ways. So if you find something that's really interesting, even if it's just not like an urban riding class, you have a unique idea of like, I want to have do a ride around the farms in my area because it's going to be like local cheese weekend, and I want to do a safety presentation, or like have a focus of like riding safety and how to ride these like rural roads in a proper way. We'll work with you on that. We want that to happen. We think that just makes exciting. We just want to encourage more people to be out on their bikes or walking or on their scooters, little razor scooters, whatever we think there's a need for. We want to help support you in that.
Yeah, as another example, last night I was at the University of Maine for the second meeting of the Bike Packing Collective Club, which it's a cool club. There was a lot of students there. It was very well attended, and most of the meetings focus on bike packing, so getting gear strapped to your bike. But last night's meeting was entirely Fix-A-Bike, and the meeting focused on Fix-A-Flat. And I told the club leaders last night that had they been on our instructor team, that would have been something that they could have been compensated for had they wanted to earn a little bit of extra cash and felt like that was an important part. So per Dan's like cheese ride idea, you might be doing something anyway, leading a group ride, and you can embellish that group ride with a safety talk beforehand, and that part of the event for you could be compensated and be considered bicycle safety education as part of what we're explaining to you today.
Yeah. Example of this to another thing, like I live right by a black shop in Falmouth, and I really wanted to teach a technical descending class because I thought that'd be fun and there'd be a need for it, and I just made it happen. So granted, I'm on staff, it makes things kind of easy at times, but we also feel like if there's a need or there's an opportunity to be involved with it, we'll make it happen. All right. So let's talk about goals. All right, our program goals for 2023. We want to certify at least 16 instructors, one per county. We've already had close to 50 people apply, so I think we're going to get there. Anyone knows anyone in Aroostook County that wants to be involved? Let's get some more names out there. That'd be great. One reason why we have that certain goal is last year we were at 14 out of 16 counties. The two counties we missed were Washington County, and I'm going to say this wrong, so please apologize. I'm not from Maine. It's Saginaw County. Is that right? Sagahaddock.
I don't even know what you're saying, Dan.
Those are the two counties we missed last year, and I want to people in those guys who want to be involved, do it. It'd be great. But anyone who wants to be involved, no matter what, I want them to become part of this. So the other thing I want to do is this is the first year this program is happening in this kind of format, much more of a formalized thing. So that being said, anyone's involved, kind of a guinea pig this year. We're going to try out some things. It's not going to be perfect. I think the program's good. I'm really happy with where we come with it, but things are going to need to be developed and refined. So I want to create a committee of instructors that are going to be dedicated to teaching, but also helping out and refining the program and making ways and, giving us feedback to make this thing even better. One of my big things about this is I want this to be a enjoyable program for me to be part of, people are excited about. Also, I want to make this a community as well of people who can rely on each other, bounce ideas off each other, create this network of, bicycle educators in the state of Maine. From a education program standpoint, we would love to go past 7,000 people this year if possible. 6,000 was a great year. I think we can hit 7,000 with a few more people involved. But yeah, the more the better. I think, the more people who can get exposed to bicycle safety and pedestrian safety in the state of Maine, which just means hopefully safer roads and less people being injured out there. So, and then we want to host at least one event in each county in Maine. We want to get all 16 and make sure we aren't focusing solely on Portland or solely on Bangor or Western Maine, that everyone has access to bicycle education. Cool. So important stuff. So this thing that probably wasn't clear before, we're going to talk about a little bit, is that we were asking all instructors to be first aid certified. If you're already first aid certified, great, that's awesome. Otherwise, it can be done online. The Red Cross has a adult, child, and baby first aid and CPR class you can take. It's $37 online. You'll become certified. If that is if you want to do this program and you need to get first aid certified and the $37 is a financial burden for you, please let us know. We will work with you to help get some of that covered. We just want to make sure that you are covered. So if you're anything, rarely do people get injured in these classes in a way they need significant aid, but we also want to make sure that does happen. You feel prepared for it. That's a huge thing. We also want to say that all instructors who are working with us are covered under BCM's liability insurance. It's a fairly large insurance coverage, but as long as you act within the manner that we hope you would, and under our teaching, that you are covered under liability insurance. So that's a big thing for a lot of people. Why a lot of people don't get involved in this kind of stuff is that kind of thing. So, yeah. Eric, anything else you want to add to that? Am I missing anything?
Nope. I just put some other stuff in the chat there. You can also check your local adult ed programs to see, they often provide like a first aid and CPR combo class.
A lot of like high school continuing education or college education. Sometimes local police and fire departments will host free CPR training and free first aid training. So,
and I think, Dan, I hate to do it in front of everyone, but are we talking about first aid or first aid and CPR?
So first aid and CPR. This class covers first aid and CPR.
Okay, because some classes you might find out there might be first aid only. Make sure you get that combo class, because we do want CPR to be part of your toolkit.
Yeah, so I know we just asked people to know if they're going to be part of this to get that training done as soon as possible. It's a benefit for for us as you an instructor to be first aid certified, but just in life in general, it can be very useful. So,
can I ask a question?
Yep.
So if you already had, like, I'm a nurse, so I already have CPR.
Yeah,
you're golden.
You're all set.
All I would need is first aid.
I mean, I feel if you're a nurse, you are probably already have that experience and already probably well covered. And I imagine you get a first aid certification pretty easily.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't, if I found something that was just first aid, I'd be okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So as long as we just need somebody to be certified in CPR and first aid. Sometimes you can just get CPR. Sometimes they're just CPR certification. Some they're just first aid certification. We ask you to have both.
I also successfully raised 3 children, so I've taken care of all their vomiting and boo-boos.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of tiers here. So if you are a certified nurse, then you are already all set. If you're working as a wilderness first responder, then you're already all set. Yeah. But for someone who doesn't have any of this certification, start with first aid and CPR. Those should be that's our bottom tier here that we're going for.
Yeah. So cool. All right. So yeah, any other questions? Send me a question about first aid before we go any further. You can just unmute yourself and ask if you'd like. Okay. Well, we have plenty of time for questions after as well. So, there you go. Questions. So that's the rundown of the program. That's our goals for this year. Yeah, I'd like to open up any questions. You can unmute yourself. You can drop a question in the chat. Yeah.
You want to take us out of share screen, Dan? And maybe we can.
Yeah, that's probably a good way to do it too. Yeah. Actually, I guess one thing I'll add before we go any further. So where we developed this program, so this is a unique program. It was self-developed. It has pulled from a lot of other organizations as well. So a lot of our traffic skills have come from the LCI, which is the League of American Cyclists League Cycling Instructor Certification Program. That's a mouthful. But it's one of our main things. Eric and I are also certified by the Professional Mountain Bike Instructors Association. So a lot of our skills have come from that as well. But also in my past time, I managed a mountain bike organization in Washington, and a lot of our training has come from that. And I see a familiar face already in that. So a lot of this programming and this program did come from just a lot of experience amongst our instructor team. Try to give you something that's effective, meets all our needs, but also for you is not super time intensive. Right now, I think the whole training, we have about an hour and a half of videos in there. Online exam that'll probably take about an hour to 2 hours to complete. It's mostly open-ended, and then our in-person certification is going to be about 3 hours. So we're talking about 6 hours probably total of time to meet these needs. So. I see a couple of questions here. Will you allow your neighbors in New Hampshire to take this class? Absolutely. If you're out of state but you want to teach in Maine, great, go for it. I can't say this certification will cover you out of state. We are a Maine focused organization, but something you want to go through to experience, I'm all for it. That being said, we are offering this up free of charge for this year. We will most likely start charging for the certification next year. There's been a lot of demand, and it's probably something that we need to help support the program. Yeah.
A couple more questions here. Bob in Parsonfield is interested in taking the training, but isn't sure about the upcoming availability on his calendar. So for people that are not sure about their own availability, what would you recommend as far as taking the training now or waiting?
I would say if your availability is you can't do the April 15th thing or something like that, feel free to take the training this year. And then we can always coordinate with you to set up the time to do an in-person certification. We're probably going to have to host another one at some point anyways, but we'd like to get as many people done on April 15th as possible. If you're not sure how busy you're going to be this year with classes and everything, totally get it. Once again, this is a volunteer opportunity. We're not saying you need to be you have to be at this one thing we assigned for you without knowing your actual availability. We're not going to force anyone to do anything that they can't do, time-wise, logistics-wise. But I would say, if you're interested, take the training now. And then, we always work with you to get you involved as needed. So.
All right, well, let's talk about Cycling Savvy and LCI. One of the questions that came in from Barbara is related to those. And what are we looking for regarding Cycling Savvy and LCI or any of the other official bicycle-centric certifications out there? And how do they pertain to what we're doing here in the state of Maine?
Yeah, so I put those up there because those are just organizations that we have, that we're familiar with. And we have, a lot of us have kind of gone through and have experience with that we've used to kind of help develop a lot of this programming as well. We feel like, they all kind of meet the needs of the state of what we need in Maine, but this program we developed here kind of takes a lot of information and makes something that fits the needs of the Bicycle Coalition of Maine and what we need to teach, and what meets our standards. So. That's where that. I also put up there because sometimes people might be kind of interested in this and then oh, I really enjoy this. I want to know more. I want to take that deeper dive. I want people to feel empowered to go do more about that. Because in a previous role, we did our in-house certification, but a lot of people got really into mountain bike education. So what are the next steps? Well, you should go get your PMBIA level 1 certification. That's a more in-depth program. That really kind of focuses a lot more on how to teach certain skills, the biomechanics behind it, why we teach this thing in a certain way and in this sequence. So that is one reason why we have that stuff out there. So I would say if anyone is interested in this kind of stuff but wants us to go get other certifications as well, research those ones. They're all great. I'm a big fan of PMBIA as a mountain bike instructor. I think they do some wonderful things. And for those who really want to focus on like that kind of education, there's few better resources out there. They're essentially the mountain bike version of the Professional Ski Instructors Association, which is arguably the best outdoor education or skiing skills education in the world. So yeah.
So now we have a question from Kathy. What do we do at the in-person part of the training? So that's what do we do on April 15th when we meet in either Bangor or Portland?
Yeah, great question. So I can't believe I didn't cover that earlier. So the in-person certification, in-person part is going to be 3 hours. And essentially, we'll meet up. We'll have no chance to ask any questions people might have. They might be better answered in person, but also it's an opportunity for us to talk about how we teach a class, how a class flows, that kind of thing. But also, it's going to be a part where we're going to assign you a skill ahead of schedule for you to teach back to us in a small group. And really, it's an opportunity for you to practice teaching and for us to give you feedback on things that could be better, things that worked really well, things that we can't really do on online online format or platform, and one that doesn't translate well as well, and it just needs to be there in person. So that's really the main purpose for that. It's kind of also us for to make sure that we don't see any huge red flags within our training. I imagine most people who are involved in this, I'm not going to worry about, but it's one of the things that we want make sure we meet in person, and so you can get to know us and we get to know you as well. All right, Mike, is there any outreach for individuals who use adaptive bikes? Sadly, actually, there really has not been. The thing we need to do is reach out more to the adaptive community about this program. Right now, we've been so focused on just getting this launched off the ground that we haven't done probably our best of getting the word out there. But Mike, if you could actually reach out to me with some good contacts there, I would love to get that ball rolling and talk to some people about that. It'd be great to have a bit more adaptive input in this programming as well.
We have worked in the past with Maine Adaptive, and we did try to. This happened. We were working on it the fall and winter of 2019, and things got pretty smashed to bits in 2020. But we had a adaptive traffic skills course that we were going to pilot with Maine Adaptive, and so we have the entire workbook for that, adapted for trikes and other adaptive needs. But we never went anywhere with it. It's really ripe for a pilot run at this point.
So my name's actually Noah. I'm using somebody else's computer. But I've just moved back to Maine. I grew up in Aroostook County, and I've been living in Utah for the past 6 years. And I was just curious. I don't know enough about the adaptive community in Maine. So I'm probably not the best person to kind of do that. I was just asking just in general, because I think it's something that, if there's a way that we could also kind of help out with that side of it, because there's a lot of stuff where individuals with disabilities and using adaptive bikes, it turns into a different game, especially maintenance wise and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'll paste in the link for Maine Adaptive, the organization we've worked with before. I think that you are totally on target there, Noah. Like, we ought to do a little bit more. We've also worked with Portland Wheelers, and I don't have the link off the top of my head. I think it's just portlandwheelers.org. Portland Wheelers is another adaptive group. They have adaptive bicycles for Portland area. And both of those organizations have equipment, and that's often like a key part of teaching adaptive cycling when you have someone else come in. So partnering with them to doing like an instructor training, I think could be a really important part of this. So thanks, Noah. Let's connect, the three of us, later on, and we'll see if we can do something together. Thanks, Ann.
Awesome. Any other questions? I feel like trying to think of anything else I missed in this program, in this, but yeah.
I'll add one more thing. I think, Dan, you did go over it lightly, but just so everyone knows, the $600 it can be used as sort of like a limit, depending on like how much more involved you want to get with a W-2 after you hit 600. But it doesn't have to be like your goal. Your goal could be, well, at the lowest level, you might just want to volunteer your time. And we've worked with a lot of volunteers over the years who don't want to get paid. They just want to do this work. But you also might only do 1 or 2 local gigs a year. And so you might not be going above $100 in compensation. It doesn't have to be a full-time or even feel like something that you have to do a lot of. It can be the one school that you really want to connect with, or a local civic organization. You can create what the depth of what you want to do with this program.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great point, Eric. Yeah, I think that is a huge part of it. Like, don't feel like you have to go so far into this thing. Like if you can do any help you can give is immensely helpful to us and the organization. We it's only so the more people involved, the more reach we have, the more advocates we have, just in general. So they don't feel like that is a limit at all. So Tim, you mentioned the Wednesday webinars. We do love doing these. That's another thing we also talk about too. If anyone else here has an idea for a Wednesday webinar, something they want to lead, if they know how to make a bike packing bag really fast, as an example, and want to do a demonstration of how to stitch one up, awesome. I would love to see that happen. But also feel like we want this program to be a little bit of a platform for people to share their creative ideas about bikes and how things they want to teach out there. So we don't ultimately teach the same thing. We all specialize in different things and share that as well. So
the answer to that is you put everything in the bag that doesn't fit, you take it out again, you put it back in, you take it out. There's like 3 steps there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And also, whatever you think you need to take, just get rid of half of it. So
Lisa's asking, do we get support the first couple of events we are attending? So is there an apprenticeship period? And that can be, we can certainly facilitate an apprenticeship period so that you're not walking into your first presentation having had no experience in front of a classroom before. And in an apprenticeship type of activity, maybe there's 3 presentations that we're doing for a school. This is a hypothetical. And so the experienced instructor would go first, and then maybe second. And then the apprentice would go second and certainly third. And there'd be a time there to reflect and provide feedback. And you'd have sort of a wing person to jump in and help facilitate anything that you feel unsure about or anything that you might have missed during the presentation. So yes, the answer to that is yes. We can facilitate your first presentations or whatever type of activity you want to go on, like a rodeo, for instance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think once again, being a new year, it can be being a brand new program might be a little bit challenging at first to find people to mentor, but we'll definitely do what we can to support you in that sense. But also, I think down the road, that'd be an awesome idea too for new instructors to be partnered with older to more experienced instructors to, make sure they get shown the way, I guess you can say. Awesome.
Maybe that 2 people do one together to start supporting one another. Yeah, so that's Linda's proposal here. And absolutely, like if a couple of you want to team up and do a school that has like a couple hundred kids that are in need of safety education, that you can do it. Or if it's a rodeo, or the 2 of you can partner together to do an instructional ride for adults. That's a absolutely great way to go in with this, and kind of softens the blow that one person new to this would experience. So Bob's asking I think, Bob, what you're saying is if you are volunteering and you don't want the compensation, what happens to that compensation? And so, yes, in general, like if you don't want to get $30 an hour, then we would just keep that to facilitate more programming that we would do through the Bicycle Coalition of Maine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I say all the programming that falls under like bicycle pedestrian safety education is actually funded by the Maine DOT. So that's where a lot of this funding comes from. Anything outside of that is usually a fee for service program. So understand where that money is coming from, and if it's not used, where it might go. So,
and in the last several years, we've run the DOT contract dry, which means that by the end of the year, we're pulling from the BCM coffers to compensate for all the education work that we do in the state.
Yeah.
So we don't have a surplus of DOT money. There's always a need for some extra baggage in there, some fluff.
Not yet. Not yet.
Well, no, not this early, but hopefully not.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, if there's no more questions, I would say for those of you who have applied or chat with me, great. I hope the training is going well for you. Any questions about the training, please feel free to reach out to me personally or Eric. We'll do our best to answer your questions. If you're interested in the program, but you're unsure about your time or your ability to commit, please just fill an application and then we can chat some more. We want to be able to support anyone who's interested in this and get people involved. And we can always find ways to get you more involved or adapt around your schedule as well. So once again, we want this to be a community. We want to build a great network of dedicated instructors, and I think we don't want to turn anyone away from that. So just making sure that people know that they are welcome to be part of this program, no matter what their circumstances are. So cool.
One more question from Bob. I'm getting these through direct messages, which is why everyone else isn't seeing them.
Okay.
So if Bob resides outside of the state of Maine in an urban environment, and like Boston, and that type of environment does have a much larger need to deal with pedestrians and drivers in a different way than someone would in a rural area. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a place for that here in Maine too. Not all of Maine is rural. If you're in downtown Portland, you're going to need a different set of skills. Places like downtown Bangor do not allow you to ride a bicycle on the sidewalk. I think that's a law in a handful of other municipalities throughout the state. So there are plenty of reasons to learn how to drive vehicularly. I think that's what you're getting at, Bob. And that would be a different type of training than we would deliver to 8-year-olds or third graders or something like that. This is a more adult-like training. There's a need for all types of training and for all audiences.
Yeah. Yeah, I think our goal right now is to deliver training that meets the needs of most people, the majority that we would work with. So. Excellent. Well, everyone, I would say thank you. Yes, so we will send out the recording of this webinar to everyone. We also do that on our Wednesday webinar page. If you go to our Wednesday webinar archive on the bikemaine.org webpage, this will be there in a few days. So
if you registered, we have your email, and once we have all the video stuff processed, we'll share through an email so that you have the recording of this.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you everyone for your time today. If you have any questions, please don't be a stranger. My email is dbassett@bikemaine.org. You can easily find me on the website. But yeah, we hope if you're not already applied, please apply. We'd love to see you become part of this. But otherwise, any questions, don't be a stranger. Eric, want anything else?
Yeah, I'm Eric, ERIK @bikemaine.org. Same thing. Thanks for coming. I'm excited, as some of you have expressed in the comment section. Really looking forward to getting out there with more of you and having a big team of instructors here in the state. So Yahoo! Let's make it happen.
Cool. Thank you, everyone.